For years now, German brands have been playing kind of fast and loose with the idea of what is actually a coupe. In my mind, coupes are two-door vehicles, but a lot of the German brands have said, no, coupes can also be four-door vehicles, like this one. This is the new 2019 Mercedes-AMG GT four-door. Now, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. It is not a larger version of the GT two-door. It actually sits on a completely different platform. Underneath, this actually shares more in common with the E63 wagon. And now you're saying to yourself, no, wait a minute. If this thing really is more E63 wagon than GT two-door, where do they get off calling it a coupe? Well, in my mind, there's a couple of qualifications you have to have in order to really be called a coupe. And does this thing have them? Well, let me take you through it. The first qualification for being called a coupe, in my mind, is that it really has to look the part. This thing really does. From the super low back end with the slim taillights and the hatchback, to the frameless windows on the doors, to the low front end with the headlights and the grille that look a lot like the AMG GT two-door, I think that this is probably one of the closest executions to an actual four-door coupe that I've yet seen. Second qualification for being a proper sport coupe is it has to have the power. This one most certainly does. There are three powertrains coming for the AMG GT four-door. First is a 3-liter twin-turbo inline-6 mated up to a mild hybrid system, and the second powertrain is a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 in two different forms. Now, the 63 and the 63S are the more performance models. The 63S that we see here is 630 horsepower and goes 0 to 60 in what Mercedes says is about 3 seconds conservatively. It may actually be a little bit less than that, they're saying. All that power gets to the ground through a standard all-wheel drive system, but it's a rear-biased all-wheel drive system. And in the 63S, like this one, you can actually shunt 100% of that power to the rear wheels in a kind of drift mode, which is great for scaring the in-laws on the way to dinner. The third element of a proper sports coupe is that it has to look the part inside as well. And this one, again, I think fits the bill. Now, most sports coupes, the two-doors anyway, don't have much in the way of a back seat for people, if they have one at all. The four-door coupes do. And this one actually has a pretty good back seat. There's plenty of legroom, there's plenty of headroom as well. And you may have some smaller side windows because of the low roof, but this really isn't a penalty box at all. Even the fact that it has a moonroof doesn't impact that much the rear headroom. Now, you can only get these in a 4-seat model in the US. You can get a 5-seater internationally, but if you want a 5-seat four-door coupe in the United States, Mercedes would instead like to show you the CLS. Up front, it looks much more like an AMG GT two-door than the E-Class on which it's based. Now, the upper part of the dash, yeah, there is some E-Class influence there, but look at the center console. This is directly influenced by the two-door coupe model. It's wide, it's got a very similar style to it, the shifter is the same as well, and this one now features the new trackpad instead of the rotary knob. Mercedes did away with the rotary knob for its multimedia system, and we're not entirely sure we like that yet, but we'll let you know as soon as we get to actually drive one and test it. They've also got reconfigurable buttons here and there. The screens that you see on the center console light up when you start the car, and the steering wheel itself has 2 light-up screens as well. On the right, it's always going to be your drive mode. On the left, it's a reconfigurable hotkey. So maybe you get in the car every time and you turn on the super loud exhaust because you like everyone to know what you bought. Well, on the left, you can actually key this hotkey to activate the exhaust at the touch of a button whenever you get in. So is this thing a proper sports coupe? You know what, 2-doors or 4-doors, I'm kind of tired of fighting this battle. I would call this thing a proper coupe, a sports coupe even. Now, isn't there another 4-door coupe in the Mercedes-Benz lineup? And yes, there is. The CLS-Class is also called a 4-door coupe. But Mercedes thinks that there's room for 2 of those in the lineup, just like there are 2 2-door drop tops in their lineup, the SL-Class and the AMG GT 2-door convertible as well. They have different missions. This one has a different mission than the CLS as well. The CLS is more about luxury. This one skews much more towards the sports end of the spectrum. There's no pricing yet announced for this thing, but Mercedes tells me that if you look at the Porsche Panamera Turbo, that is pretty close to what you're going to be looking at for one of these when they arrive later this year. And when they do arrive later this year, we'll bring it all for you at Cars.com.